One of my biggest mistakes with my business, I didn't ask for any help. The first company that I set up, I ended up bankrupting that company. I paid for that, but I also learned from that.
And that's the whole point of actually being an entrepreneur.
After all of that, I recovered. I started a new company with the same name, but a new mindset, doing it all right this time.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back to Verdusco Talks Business. So today we got Rob Roa here, founder of Roundabout Records. How's it going, Rob?
It's going great. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I know you started back in 2005 as a one-man DJ venture and, 2 decades of full service. So just to kind of kick us off, if you don't mind telling the audience, tell us a little about yourself, who you are, and the path that brought you to where you're at today.
All right. Well, happy to share my story. I started Roundabout Records in 2005. At the time, before that, I used to work doing marble restoration. I was like a laborer and going to job sites, and then a couple friends and we decided, hey, you know what? Let's start a record label and put out some music. That was the original plan when we created this company. Roundabout Records was a record label and publishing company. And so I had some money saved up. I went and saw this lawyer in Miami. He helped us set up the company. We made some contracts so we could sign artists, and we started Roundabout Records and started operating. And soon after we started the company, one of the guys I was partnering with, he went to jail. And then the other guy moved away to Puerto Rico. So they both dropped off the scene.
Oh,
And
man.
it was just me left to run this company, not knowing what the heck I was doing, just kind of figuring things out on the fly, just.
Now, so out of curiosity, did you have like some people in the music that you're already talking to and to create something, or were you looking to create some music? Like, I guess what were you looking to do at that time?
At the time, we were making a lot of music. We were creating music. We
Really?
were making dance music. We were making hip hop music. We were recording, and we wanted an outlet to distribute our music, to publish our music. So we created this record label with intention of publishing our own music, self-publishing our tunes. And,
Wow.
and
So
so
did
that's
you
how it
sing,
started.
or is more like a DJ, or?
It's more like music production, electronic music created using software, using computers and machines and synthesizers and all that
Wow.
stuff. And we have put out a bunch of tunes. I've put out a bunch of tunes under the name DJ Phono. It was a lot of fun, but at the same time, we know what we were doing. I didn't really have a lot of experience prior to that. I just kind of dove in and just said, let's do it. We'll figure it out, make it happen. And at the time, also, I was DJing a lot. I was doing a lot of events, and I wanted to legitimize. Like, I just wanted to be able to operate as a business, operate my DJ business through the record label. So that's exactly what I did. The Roundabout Records became also a DJ service. And now I was able to do services under that name and take advantages of being a business, like write off expenses. I could write off records. I could write off my equipment, write off models, and now I'm self-employed, so I could, it's, there's a lot of benefits to that, I was working for myself, there's a lot of good and bad to that, it's not easy running a business, I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, yeah, speaking to that, making mistakes, I always rely on, for example, Robert Kiyosaki books. He talks about that a lot, and that's where you actually learn that in being in the military. They teach you it's okay to make mistakes, And that's the point of, going through these practice runs, is that you learn how to get past those points. You learn from your mistakes, and that's the whole point of actually being an entrepreneur.
I'm very grateful for the mistakes that I made because every time something would happen, I would overcome it. I would figure it out, overcome it, and then it would just make my business stronger, elevate what I'm doing. I learned from that. One of my biggest mistakes with my business at the time is that I didn't ask for any help. I was I had this thing in my head where I was like, I have to do every part of this business. I have to be the manager, the marketer, the accountant, the bookkeeper. I'm doing everything, and that hurt me because things like taxes, I probably should have consulted with a tax accountant, a CPA, or someone to help me operate better, take advantage of different credits and things that I qualified for. I could have ran my books better if I would have consulted with an accountant, but I just was like, I'm doing everything myself, and I paid for that a little bit. And now the first company that I set up, I ended up bankrupting that company
Wow.
in 20 couple years ago. I racked up such a tax debt that I was like, my ego wouldn't let me. I just kept getting deeper and deeper into it and ignored it, and just something was li I just got to a point where I was like, there was nothing I could do. I was underwater, and I was like, "I need help," and I came across this great accountant that gave me some good direction and was like, "You need to file for bankruptcy and start over, and wipe out this, 10 years of tax debt that you incurred." Because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't pay taxes for the first 5 years of my company, because I would
Oh,
just a DJ trying to operate a business. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't ask for any help, and I paid for that,
yep,
but I also learned from that. I was able after all of that, I recovered. I started a new company with the same name, but a new mindset, doing it all right this time. You know,
yep.
I I got with a business mentor through score.org, and that helped me tremendously because now I was able to get a mentor for taxes, an accountant to sit with me and help me understand how to classify my business. I used to be just like a regular LLC, LLC, a C type. And then, through the help of a few people that are experts in taxes and this kind of thing, they're like, oh, you could be an S corp and do quarterly taxes, and it'll be a lot better for you. You'll end up paying less taxes for my type of business. And so, I'm grateful for that. And I got a nice grant too when I moved my business to Michigan. I ended up moving here 5 years ago, and when I first moved here, I didn't know anybody, and I got with the DHDC in Detroit, the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, and they were just super helpful, giving me all kinds of resources, and they were booking me for gigs, and they put me on their mailing list, and that's when I saw that there was this grant for Hispanic business owners, and I was like, "Okay, I I'm gonna try this." I looked at the requirements for the grant, and I had to submit a video application. I had to
Oh,
submit
really?
a video application for this grant and had to talk about how I would benefit from a $10,000 grant. What I had to talk about what I would do with the money. And part of the deal was I had to get this business mentor. I had to set up a program on score.org and have 3 sessions with the business mentor And after that, I'd qualify for the grant. So I put my application in, I put in my submission, and like 6 months later, I got this grant. I was like, "What?" I couldn't believe it. I was
Wow.
like,
That's
"Wow." They
awesome.
gave me
That's a hell of a story, Rob.
it really impacted me. It really helped me because at the time, my business was in Florida. I owned a recording studio for 9 years in Florida. And I moved here and I was trying to operate my business from here in Michigan, in Florida, and I had people working for me down there, and I'm on the phone with them, and they have keys, and their stuff's going missing, and, it was just it didn't work out. And then I got this grant, and with that grant, I was able to move my whole business up here to Michigan, close down the studio down there, and bring everything up here and operate out of my home in Detroit, and that's so huge for me. That was
Beautiful. Wow.
yeah.
That's one hell of a story, man. Damn.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
well, out of curiosity, given Roundabout Records where you guys are at today, out of curiosity, what other services you offer to your clients all across the Detroit metro area?
I offer creative services. I record audiobooks. I do a lot of audiobooks and record a bunch of a couple bestsellers,
Oh,
it's been,
really?
so I'm an audio engineer
Is
and,
it is that like the biggest part of your business is the audiobooks?
it really is. It really is because they're great projects, they're extensive recording projects. The last book I recorded was 12 hours of recording, and then there's a lot of editing and they're bigger projects, than just like when I had my recording studio, I would get a lot of new people that just want to come in and rap on a microphone for an hour. It's a different kinds of clients, different scopes of projects. And so, and I love to record the vocal stuff too. Don't get me wrong, I'll do that anytime. But
Out of curiosity, when you say vocal, what do you mean by that? Like, recordings of music
vocals,
or
music, singers,
Oh, okay.
rappers, singers, voices. I'm actively looking for other audio books to record,
Okay.
actively looking for more authors and people that are releasing books that want to turn their book into an audio book. That's a big part of what Roundabout Records does is we uh we capture audio for authors.
Since you brought this up, I'm just enter my mind when you brought this. So you talk about, singers, rappers, etc. It over the years you've been doing this, has there anybody comes in, you're like, "Damn, that person's gonna hit it big," and then you're like, "Damn, they hit it big." Have you ever had that?
Yeah, yeah, I have. I have. I record once I recorded this, it's like this young kid, like 15 years old, like dad booked the recording session. Mom and dad booked the recording session and just his kid's voice was just incredible, just an incredible
Was it
soothing.
Michael Jackson?
Oh, it wasn't Michael Jackson. It wasn't Michael Jackson. This kid had this amazing, amazing voice. And at the same time, she also got accepted to NASA to work at NASA. So she's not only just extremely musically talented, she's also like rocket scientist.
Wow.
Control,
Wow.
rocket scientist. And so I thought, like, I knew for sure, like, this kid is going to go places, it's exciting to see, where her career is going to go, sometimes it's like they're doing music now, but I'd love to see them continue to practice music,
Let's
making
see where
music,
they go.
recording.
Awesome. Uh, so Rob, kind of still stick with the music, audiobook. So your ideal client, has that changed over the years? So from when you started back in 2005 till now, or is it kind of the same?
Yeah, I used to work with a lot of rappers. I used to record a lot of rappers in my recording studio. I used to record also voiceover actors that
Really?
come in. I did a lot of voiceover recordings for the automotive industry for, for auto sales. car dealerships, they do tons of radio ads, they do a lot of recording. And where my studio was set up in Delray, I had a few guys that lived in the area that liked to come down, walk down to my studio downtown and, uh, and record. And, part of the service that I offer is, a service where they come into my studio and I capture the vocal and then I will stream it to another studio in LA or another studio with engineers there to receive that vocal and finish the rest of the project and do the editing right there. So it was pretty cool. I was serving as more like a satellite studio, beaming and recording the audio to other studios and other places. So that was fun. I enjoyed doing that. But
You
then
know
when
what?
Mhm.
Go ahead. I was gonna say you kinda remind me of something because you were talking about beaming and everything. Because
Yeah.
actually that's how I got into engineering
Yeah.
was, yeah, well, when I was in high school, they had something called the skill center,
Uh-huh.
and what it was, they had like a CD player, and I don't know if you yeah, it shows my age. They had a CD player, and they had like a transmitter, it was a red laser pointer, and it pointed all the way across the room into a
Mhm.
receiver box. It had like a little hole that was meant to receive the information,
Oh.
and they had speakers connected to it. It was playing the music from the CD player, and then they shined the laser off the wall off a reflector and went back into the receiver, and it was still playing the music. It wasn't, like, crystal clear, but it was still playing the music. I was like, "Oh, this is so cool." It varies so much here. Well, obviously a much greater distance.
That's cool. Was that like, infrared? I wonder, like, what was the
It
signal
was like infrared.
optical? Like,
It looked like a red laser pointer. That's what it
sounds
looks
like
like.
infrared
Yep.
technology if it was during that time. I remember in high school, we had a radio transmitter at our school. And I got really into learning about transmitting signals and learning about the crystals and how the crystal controls the frequency. And I got to get some experience with radio broadcasting and
Oh,
film
wow.
broadcasting in high school. And that continued a little bit after high school. There was a few underground radio stations in the neighborhood. I knew a few of them, that they had transmitters and they would just broadcast radio, on a band that, it was like they would use a band from like a station that was really far away or something that didn't really reach into the area. And that's how they were able to broadcast. And later on, I ended up
Right.
working at the radio station. And that was fun.
Oh, wow, wow. I was gonna say, so Rob, since you do, you obviously done all kinds of stuff, DJing, audiobooks, parties, whatnot. You cover a lot of ground.
Mhm.
So out of curiosity, how do you keep, I guess you say, new books and coming in consistently? Where do you find how do you find, I guess, where do you find most of your clients come from?
Well, I work with a fantastic studio in Detroit called Audio Engineers of Detroit. And I'm a subcontractor for them. So they're the ones
You
that
are.
out there getting the clients and I'm the guy coming in doing the work.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
It's a top-notch studio, and I was that guy for a long time. I owned the studio for 9 years and, I'm really enjoying not having the overhead of that. I'm really enjoying just going in, doing the work, and then coming home and not having to deal with the gear. It's really nice. So, and so I'm just grateful for that. And then I talk about my projects. I go on social media and I share the projects that I've worked on, and people see my work and they'll reach out to me when they want. I get referrals that way.
Well, that's awesome, man. Glad you have that. So, man, it sounds easy. Well, as you pointed out, before you had to do everything yourself. Now you figure out a way to be able to generate clients and everything. That's awesome.
I'm real big on social media, YouTube. I've been spending a lot of time on YouTube lately. just understanding how to grow my own channel. I have Rob Roa music on YouTube, and I manage a few other channels. And over the past couple years, I've gotten very into video editing, which is something that I'm offering now. It's something that I do, and it's something that just feels natural to me, from many years of audio editing and working like in a timeline. Video just naturally was like a step up for me, so I'm really enjoying that right now. And I've been experimenting with running ads on Google and getting some good results. It's amazing when you put a couple little bucks into some of these platforms. They'll produce for you, sometimes. And I always tell that to people, if you're out there and you're doing videos and you're on YouTube and you're on these platforms, put a few bucks into it, to get some traction. And after you do that, it kind of like they favor you. I've gotten good results that way. And I believe in you have to put some of your money into advertising. You gotta constantly keep putting your name in front of people, because unless you're out there all the time shaking hands, which I'm not at all anymore. I'm doing full-time insurance now,
Yeah.
and I pivoted from the entertainment stuff to do insurance now because I like it. I wanted something different. I like helping people, and I see the massive potential with that, and I see how my network works well for that. But my point is that, because I don't have enough time to go out there and constantly, network, I do put little money into ads, and it helps. I get results. It gets the phone ringing. I get emails coming in, so that's part
Nice.
of how I continue to get work.
That's I honestly, I hate to say this. I probably read like 8, 10 Robert Kiyosaki books, but he talks about that as in marketing is key. Like
Mhm,
McDonald's, he's like,
mhm.
how does McDonald's does it? Is because they do great marketing. That they're number one in marketing, and that's how they keep their business running all the time. So yeah, bring up a great point. You got to invest in marketing because you can't, McDonald's can't be going around shaking hands with everybody.
No, no, but, it's amazing what you can do. You have to definitely do some marketing and definitely spend money on ads. Like, you could make content, make video all day, but if you're not putting a little bit of money into it, then it's just not going to reach as far.
Yeah.
And the return on that is so much greater than the amount you're putting in. The
Nice.
return on that, just the to get those impressions is so valuable. you know and so,
Nice.
I always wanna continue to put my put my work out there, share my work, what I've done, share my projects. And
Kind of, I guess you say, move on to a different subject, but something you brought up in the past already. So your audiobooks, I guess, how'd that come about? Because obviously DJing, music, nobody would think of doing audiobooks. So
it's funny.
how that whole thing, how did you land into that?
It all happened just because someone reached out to me and wanted to record an audiobook, and I was like, "Alright, let's do it." Figured it out, I did some research, and, I ran the session, recorded this long ass audiobook. It was so long. It was like 600 pages, but it was like a month of recording. It was a huge project. And I was like, "These are great. This is all I wanna do." And it's and if it's a good book, then it's fun. I mean, you're listening to someone read this amazing story to you, and the way I record audiobooks, I'm very intentional about it. I'm coaching you as you're doing it. I'm listening very intentionally, and that if I hear something that I don't like, I'm gonna stop you and make you reread it, or give you some kind of coaching, like, smile when you read this part, or, say this part a little softer, and I help the author or the voiceover talent to capture a really good recording that makes for a good
That's
listen.
that's so interesting because I forgot what I was watching, but they're talking about, telemarketers, you know, not like it is now. Now it's probably all AI. But when they had real people doing, cold call, sales calling, they always say smile as you're talking because people, I don't know, something about your voice. If you smile as you're
Mhm.
talking, it gives that impression, I guess, through the phone. I'm pretty sure you know this.
You can feel that. You can sense that. You can hear that. You can hear when someone's smiling on the phone, their tone changes. You can trust someone. You can gain someone's trust if you feel like they're smiling. That's what I think, and I tell people that when they're recording, if it's something that calls for that, you're not going to smile during the recording if you're reading about, someone losing a relative or something, you're gonna maybe look down when you're talking and say like this, or lower your tone, But yeah, there's a lot of elements that come into play when you're recording a voiceover.
I
Yeah.
swear there's a book I read. It was an older book. Like I think it's like How to Make Friends. I can't remember the name of it, but I remember that tone was so monotone. But it was a good book. But it was so
Yeah.
monotone the whole time. I'm like, damn,
Yeah, that's
you're
tough,
struggling through it.
But it's tough. Sometimes, like the best I like when the author reads the audiobook because the author is gonna deliver it exactly how it was written, And so those books come out real well. But if it's like someone that didn't write the book reading it, they might not deliver it with the same passion that was put
Yeah.
into the book, as they're writing it. There's nothing worse than just like listening to like a boring voice that doesn't has no dynamics to it,
Yeah.
no energy put into it, like it just sounds like you're reading, and those books don't do well.
Well, to be honest with you, to your point, I remember when I first started reading audiobooks, I thought it was kind of weird well, because I know nothing about that world. I thought it was kinda weird for the person who wrote the book to be reading it, but now that you explain it this way, like, okay, that makes sense for that because they're gonna give the most amount of passion, and honestly, the audiobooks I've listened to, I read, yeah, you're right. The people who wrote it give the most amount of passion out of it,
Oh yeah,
as
most of the
they're
time.
talking through
Most
it.
of the time, not all the time. Most of the time. I never thought that I was gonna be recording audiobooks when I started this business, but it's just I quickly learned that, I discovered this niche, from just being in my area. It was really just because of where I was located. It was really because that client lived right around the corner from me and was looking for the closest recording studio. And they called me up and they were like, "You record audiobooks?" And I was like, "Yeah." You know because I'm confident that I can record anything really, voice is not hard to record for me, so I thought, "Hey, let's do this, I'll figure it out." And that after doing that one book, it just opened up a whole new world for me, I got a lot of work from that one book, that's the first audiobook I recorded. It's called, Drum Beats, Heartbeats. And it's a really good book about a biography about a woman, from Africa and, like, her journey here in the United States, and a good book, and I've recorded some from then, that was, like, the first audiobook I recorded was probably in, like, 2019,
Oh, wow, okay.
and and after that, it was like I've recorded a bunch of books, for some great people. I've recorded, Senator Mallory McMallory?
Oh,
McMallory?
wow.
She was in the studio, I recorded her book. I recorded, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson's book. It was a really
Oh,
good book.
wow.
I've recorded some great people, man, and I wanna keep doing that. I love doing that, I'm still
Oh,
doing that.
out of curiosity, Have you tried writing a book about yourself and the journey you've been on?
No, no, I haven't. I haven't. I've been writing a little more lately. It's honestly, I just I wasn't confident about my English, my grammar. I grew up. My parents were immigrants from Colombia, and I grew up in New York. Hey, yo, what up? Like that's my English. And so I didn't do well in English in school, and so it wasn't until like tools like Grammarly and even Chat GPT came around and kind of gave me the tools I needed to say what I wanted to say, and now it's made me using those tools, AI has made me such a better communicator. It really has because it's just showing me better grammar. It's showing me more creative writing that, I'm not creative with the writing. So I have to use these tools to kind of help me get my message out a little more interesting, and,
Yeah.
so I started a Substack. It's called Keys Over Chaos. And I started just telling stories about my childhood and my life and my family and, my very different life growing up, as a son of Colombian immigrants, DJ, and how music kept me alive, kept me out of trouble. So I'm going to continue to do that. So I am starting to explore just writing, just journaling stuff about my life and just sharing wisdom and just stories of growth and
Nice, nice.
that. Yeah.
No, no, that's wonderful, man. I was gonna say you so it sounds like I swear within 5 years, you're gonna end up writing a book.
Who knows?
Uh,
Maybe I'll record. I think I'll end up making a movie or something, you
oh,
know,
really? That'd be interesting.
maybe I'll write a script for a movie. I'm really enjoying the video stuff. I want to keep spending more time in that space. I want to spend more time capturing video, using cameras and recording video. I enjoy the editing and I do a lot of editing and I taught myself Final Cut Pro and I get myself involved with these podcasts so I can get more experience and really hone the craft, you know. Uh I enjoy it, man. That's been my that's probably where I spend the most time creatively is with videos right now.
Nice. Well, I know you like, obviously giving back to the community and, like, for example, lend voices in tech. How does giving back, help you build your brand and your business?
Oh man, well, like when I help somebody out, I'm empowering them to grow, to reach their client, to get their message out, to impact their family, to impact their self-esteem, their confidence, So I love teaching people what I know. If someone needs help with audio, if they're doing an event, I'll bring microphones or, I'll bring some lighting or some sound to help them help them out, and because that every time I help someone out, I feel like the universe always repays me in
Yep.
beautiful ways, and I really I strongly believe that, when I help someone out, not expecting anything in return, just it gives me great just gives me a lot of joy doing that, and that's not anything you can buy anywhere. That's not, that's something that's from within, and so like every time I help someone out, I feel like I'm just feeding my soul, and it just makes me feel like a better person, it gives me peace knowing that I'm being a good shepherd.
No, no, I know exactly what you mean, you're definitely explaining how, helping other businesses comes back around because I think I know we kinda talked about this, well, off camera, but, you're working with other people. I think, like, I remember this recording from Patrick Day where he talks about how he met a Jewish man in his 20s, and the guy had, like, $6,000,000 on this, I don't know, kitchen table or something like that, and he's like, "Oh, dude, how did you get this money?" He goes, "In the Jewish community, we all work together. So one person eats, everyone eats." And it means, they work together to be able to build a business. And it's essentially what you're alluding to is like, look, helping out other people because it's going to come back and helping out your community. Everyone, I guess you say eats, and that's
Yeah.
essentially what you're alluding to.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful that I found community here in Michigan. I'm grateful that I went to these meetings and showed up to Techeria and, DHTC, because these are my brothers. These are people that I connect with, for a long time. I didn't have that. I didn't have a lot of family around me, but I was the first of my family born in the US. All my family, all my relatives were in Colombia. So I didn't grow up around a lot of family. My parents both worked full time, and then we moved to Florida. We moved to Boca Raton, where there's like a lot of Jewish people. I had a lot of Jewish friends, and they stick together and they help each other out and they support each other. And then, I was like, man, I want to be Jewish. I want to get Rob Rosen, I admire that, that rough togetherness, that and I think that's something that, that as a Latino, I'd like to see more of that, I'd like to explore more of that. I feel like, I got a little taste of it and I feel like there's more, I want to, it feels like I'm connecting with people that have the same background as me, the same kind of roots as me, and it's something kind of new for me in this part of my life. So I'm really grateful for that.
Nice, nice. Well, Rob, obviously we're kind of getting towards the end. So, for a young person or aspiring entrepreneur that's looking to follow a path like yours, what's your best advice for them?
Oh man, something I wish I would have done sooner. I would say get a find a mentor. Get a mentor. Go or there's even free resources like score.org where you can find a mentor that can give you some guidance, to really find, help you get to where you're going, help you answer those questions, sort of meet someone that's already made the mistake so you don't have to go through all of that. Don't try to do it all on your own.
Well,
Yeah.
out of curiosity, so speaking of mistakes, so if you had to, give one mistake to avoid, what would that be?
Oh man, just be aware of the people that are in your circle. Be aware of the people around you that can influence you in a bad way, and don't allow people to discourage you, people that are around you, because it happens, if you have an idea, or you want to do something that is out of the ordinary, you know, not everyone's gonna get it, and they're gonna tell you things like, "Oh, you can't do this or you can't do that." What one thing I want to say is be very intentional about what you speak out with your words and just never speak badly about yourself because never speak badly, never say things like, "Oh, I just don't have enough time," or I don't think I can do it, Don't say those things because the universe hears that. It doesn't help, we have the ability to create the life that we want, and if we just even just saying it like speaking it out loud, the thing that you want, you can create that. You can if you start to feel that emotion and you start to live like the thing that you want is already happening, you'll get to that goal, you'll get ahead and be careful who you're around. Don't let anyone drag you down and be very mindful of what you say and the words that you speak because these things
No,
matter. Words matter.
that's great advice. Kind of remind me of something. When I first started, one of the things that I definitely learned is that like kind of like you. I think you can agree to this. Like I'm assuming when you first started, the two friends that you had when you first started your business, were probably really good friends of yours.
They
And
were. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, one thing I'd learned personally is that sometimes, you guys are good friends, but not great at business working together.
No,
And yeah,
no.
and sometimes that happens and it's okay to walk away from that. There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that.
You have to know when to walk away. You can't just hold on to something that isn't working. It will destroy you,
Yep.
and and being able to walk away or set boundaries, is a very strong thing to have, that'll really help you. Yeah,
Yep.
man. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Rob, last one. So, for anyone who wants to learn about you, Roundabout Records, what's the best way to contact you?
Oh, sure. Well, if you can find me at my website, roundaboutrecordings.com. That's my website for DJ services. I do offer DJ services for all kinds of events. Um, if you want to learn more about the other stuff I do, you can go to robroa.com, ROBROA.com, where you can just learn about me and different projects I'm involved with and stuff. Yeah, I'm on YouTube and Instagram. Yeah, you can look for Rob Roa. You'll find me on there. Rob underscore Roa underscore on Instagram. Pretty heavy on there with the stories and stuff. I'm easy to find.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, Rob, thank you for your time, man. Great interview. I really enjoyed listening to your story. Man, just, I feel like it was just like this for you.
Oh man, yeah, it continues. It continues. It's definitely been a ride. It's been a good ride, and I'm happy to tell my story. Thank you for having me on here and sharing my story
No, I
with you.
appreciate it, man.
You know, love having our conversations, man. You definitely inspired me, and I want to talk more about the stuff you're doing next time.
All right. All right. That sounds good, bud. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.